Have you ever really stopped to think about the words we use every single day? What if they're doing more than just describing the world around us? What if our language is actually building our reality? That's the huge idea we're going to unpack today, how simple talk and text can literally create the worlds we live in.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by defining what discourse analysis actually is. Then we're going to take a journey through 4 major theories that just completely flipped our understanding of language on its head: modernism, structuralism, postmodernism, and feminism. And we'll wrap it all up by talking about why this stuff really matters.
So first things first, let's get on the same page. When we talk about discourse analysis, what exactly do we mean?
Okay, so in plain English, discourse analysis is all about looking under the hood. It's not just about what is said, but how it's said, and, most importantly, the reality that those words create. Think about it like this. Do you call a new building project urban renewal or gentrification? See, both phrases describe the same event, but man, do they paint different pictures with totally different heroes and villains. That's the kind of thing discourse analysis helps us see.
So our story really starts with an idea about language that feels, well, pretty intuitive. It's an idea that's all about progress and achievement, and this is the modernist viewpoint.
To modernist thinkers, language was basically a tool, a mirror. And the idea was that this mirror gets cleaner and more accurate over time, getting better and better at reflecting the real, objective world out there. As we invent new technologies or make scientific breakthroughs, our language just adapts to describe them. Simple as that.
So the key thing here, from this point of view, is that language follows reality. It's sort of a passive thing, just trying its best to represent the world accurately. It's that common sense feeling we all have. As the world changes, our words just change to keep up.
Okay, now let's get to our first big twist in the story. Structuralism comes on the scene and says, whoa, hold on. If you want to understand language, you have to stop looking at individual words and start looking at the entire system they're a part of.
And this right here shows a massive shift in thinking. We go from seeing words as these little individual mirrors of reality to seeing them as points on a giant, interconnected web. All of a sudden, the meaning isn't in the word itself anymore. No, the meaning is in how that word relates to every other word in the whole system.
This quote really nails the whole idea. I mean, think about it. The word hot only really means something because we also have the word cold, right? Its meaning comes from being the opposite of something else in the system. It's the structure that does the heavy lifting, not the single word on its own.
Structuralism was a game changer, but some people started to think it was a bit, rigid. It focused on the system, but didn't really ask who gets to benefit from that system. And this brings us to the most radical turn yet. The mirror doesn't just organize reality anymore. Now, it actively projects it. Welcome to postmodernism, an idea shaped heavily by the philosopher Michel Foucault.
Now for Foucault, discourse was way more than just language. He took the structuralist idea of a system and cranked it up to 11 by adding the explosive ingredient of power. So a discourse becomes this entire system of thought that literally creates our reality. It builds what we think of as truth, and it even constructs who we are within that truth. At the very heart of Foucault's thinking is this inseparable link. He argued that knowledge and power aren't two different things, where you get one and then it leads to the other. Not at all. For him, they were two sides of the exact same coin. The act of establishing something as knowledge, like a medical diagnosis or a legal verdict, is an act of power. They happen at the same time.
So think about it. The power to create a whole discourse, like the discourse of medicine or the discourse of law, is the power to control reality. It writes the rules for what's sane or insane, what's legal or illegal. So the next time you hear an expert opinion, Foucault would want you to ask, who benefits from us all believing this truth?
So this idea is pretty huge, right? But how can we use it to understand our actual social world? Well, let's zoom in and look at it through a feminist lens, which gives us a really sharp way of seeing how these power dynamics play out in our everyday lives.
Feminist theorists took these powerful ideas about discourse and power and asked a really critical question. Is gender something we just are, like some kind of inner essence? Or is it something we constantly do through our language, our actions, our whole way of being?
This theory suggests that gender isn't some fixed thing inside of us. No, instead, it's a social performance. The words we choose, the clothes we wear, the way we act, all of it is a performance that our society reads and then assigns a gendered meaning to. We are constantly constructing and reinforcing what it means to be a man or a woman.
Okay,
We've gone from a simple mirror to a complicated web and finally to a powerful projector. Let's pull all these threads together and see why this journey from abstract theory to our day-to-day reality is so incredibly important.
Look, this whole evolution of thought isn't just for academics in ivory towers. It actually reveals the hidden architecture of power that's built into our daily chats, our news feeds, and our social lives. Language isn't just a communication tool, it's a construction tool.
The real takeaway here is that understanding all this gives us a new kind of superpower. It gives us the tools to look at any text, any conversation, and ask some really sharp questions. What version of reality is being built here? Who gets to speak and who has been silenced? And what assumptions are we just taking for granted?
And that really brings us to our final, pretty big thought. If the words we use and the stories we tell are literally the building blocks of reality, well, then every conversation we have, every email we send, every single speech is an act of creation. And that leaves us with a critical question to ask ourselves. What kind of world are we choosing to build with our discourse every single day?